It's a time travel story, paranormal time travel to prehistoric times. It's mainly about gifted kids, and it's a young adult thing. And this is just the initial introduction to the primary character. And the chapters are then and now and then and now. Call it intuition, call it January had heard somewhere, extrasensory perception, call it a sixth sense. The other senses were what? Sight, hearing, touch, smell, oh yeah, and taste. So a sixth sense, feeling. Whatever you called it, it wasn't a superpower. It was like the color of your hair or your skin, you got it from your parents. And like everything else you got from your parents, it had both sucky and good sides. The sucky side was that probably because of it, she couldn't read like other kids. The words slipped around, the letters wandered around in the word and had to be spelled out. And then whoever she was reading to had gotten bored. She sure wasn't reading to herself. One of the good sides was that she could feel into other kids' heads when they were reading, but that could suck too. Like today in English, she was asked to read a poem aloud in class. January Perkins from the top, please, Mr. Flint had said. Not everyone knew she couldn't read, and Mr. Obvious clearly didn't. So when she was about to die, face hot to exploding, feeling like sliding under her desk, if only the space under it had been big enough, something came to her like lightning. Kristen was reading the poem to herself. She jerked up, replaying in her head the last words Kristen had read and said, "The Tiger" by William Blake. January wasn't even looking at her book, but she did then, and guessed her way to the words on the page, repeating words as Kristen voiced them in her mind. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night was a grand poem meant to be said aloud, and the brilliance of the great orange-striped tiger rose in January's mind with the words, "What immoral hand or eye could frame thy fearful..." "That's immortal, January," the teacher interrupted. "Not immoral. God isn't immoral. Blake's talking about God here." "Sorry," January flushed and glanced at Kristen. How could she have gotten it wrong? She reads tons. She's always reading. But then she had lost her place and skipped to where Kristen was reading. "And what shoulder and what art?" "What immortal hand or eye?" the teacher prompted, but January had lost her chance. Kristen had stopped reading and was staring at her, her blue eyes wide, her face pale. Her look was something nobody wants to see in a best friend's eyes, fear. Pause. Little line across the page. "Long day?" the school bus driver asked as January steamed past, mounting the steps into the school bus. January ignored her. She flopped into her seat. Scouts was tonight. Scouts was the greatest, where she knew everything. How to tie knots, how to read charts and maps, how to make a fire, the promise, the laws. You didn't have to read to be tops in Scouts. Thinking about the meeting let her forget the horrible moment. When she got home, she'd watch the Discovery Channel for a while to soothe her nerves. Maybe help Dad sand down the chair he was working on. Anything, if Scouts didn't go wrong too. Kristen would be there, maybe. Goodness, what if she said something to the other girls? I can stop there.
Wow, that was wonderful.
Ooh.
That was
Don't
really good.
Don't stop.
Well, the next chapter is then. So it's another person in a very distant past. Then, F.A. flew across the stones, not touching the dust, only stones, but he was fast, the stones telling him where they were as he fled. He ran as he had never run before, his breath tearing at his chest, terror pounding in his ears, his side biting fiercely. Partway up the rise, he hesitated for an instant and wheeled around. No one, no sound. He'd lost them. "Mother," he whispered, a call for help, and slipped between two rocks into his secret cave. He collapsed on the rocks inside, but couldn't stifle the sounds that were half sounds, half sobs, half gasps. Can't even talk today. And he saw it again. No, The woods people. Run, Lily, run. Oh, Lily. No. He wrapped his arms around the rock as if it were human and held it tight, gasping. They won't find me here. I'll never go back. I'll live alone. I can't. They'll, Mother, he mouthed, Mother. His little sister Lily was behind him, not dead, her dark little girl hand on his shoulder. Don't cry, Effie, she said softly. It was perfectly normal for her to be there, but it wasn't. He choked. But the woods people, you... Now he turned around and saw her standing there, floating there. She had no feet, and through her chest, he could see the reddish stone at the back of the cave. I'm all right, Effie. I'll have another life sometime. She hugged him around the shoulders, then climbed into his lap. Her flesh wasn't warm. It wasn't cold. It wasn't anything. He felt her against him, but he didn't. She looked up at him and was Lily, his baby sister, but her voice was that of a woman, quiet and authoritative and speaking words. You must live, Effie. You must survive. Our father can't help you. You have to help yourself. Make them forget that you tell stories. Be family. Don't speak. How? He asked her. She fit perfectly round in his lap, as she always had, and the acid, steamy scent of her hair was in his nostrils. Pretend, she said, and grinned up at him as if it were a good trick. And she was gone. He wasn't sure if it was Lily's voice or Mother's. She was close but tiny, speaking from the floor of the cave. If you pretend, they will pretend. They will forget. They want to love you. He pivoted his head, focusing on the sound. It came from a roundish lump of soapstone on the ground by his left foot. How can that be? He asked the stone, picking it up. It fit perfectly in his hand, and it was warm, even in the cool depths of the cave. The warmth moved through him like the warmth of a hug. Keep me with you. Talk only to me. I will find a way to help you, the voice said. He cupped the stone in his palms, quieting the remains of sobs still pulling at his body. Its spirit had comforted, and a big mother hand seemed to stroke his back, his shoulders, his hair. He cried. End of chapter.